The Corrections Minister Kelvin Davis got himself into a bit of a muddle over when he first learnt about the latest prison population forecasts. He first suggested on Morning Report this morning that he didn't know the projections when he made the decision to not go ahead with a mega prison at Waikeria. But that didn't stay his position for very long. What happened next? Well, here's our political reporter Craig McCulloch.
The government's promised major justice reform with the goal of slashing prisoner numbers by 30% over 15 years. But fresh forecasts out of the Justice Ministry expect the muster not to fall, but to jump by 4,000 over the next decade, taking the prison population to almost 14,500.
Let's talk to the Corrections Minister now, Kelvin Davis. Tēnā koe.
Morena Goyon.
The forecasts were prepared late last year. A full report was published last week. And when did Mr Davis see it?
Well, I had a look at it last night, Goyon.
Which invites the question, if the Minister had only just seen the report, did he know about the forecasts when last month he scaled back a planned prison build in Waikeria?
Look, I hadn't seen the forecast when we made the announcement.
But hours later, a swift backtrack. Mr Davis issued a statement admitting he was aware of those projections. Indeed, they formed the very basis of his decision. He'd meant to say that he hadn't seen the full report. Of course, he said, he had seen the information within.
He's either not telling the truth or he's simply not up to the job.
Nationals leader Simon Bridges says the minister appears incompetent. But the bigger issue, he says, is what's Kelvin Davis's plan for dealing with the ballooning prison population.
Government needs to front up now and tell us what they're doing. We can't have this level of uncertainty and chaos in the criminal justice sector where we don't know where the prisoners are going to be put.
Mr Davis says the forecasts are based on the previous national government's policies, which he's setting about to change.
I've said to Corrections, put on your thinking caps and come up with every possible solution. We'll make sure that people who need to be in prison are still there. Safety of the community and of prison officers and of prisoners themselves is paramount. But we're looking at every single option.
The acting Prime Minister, Winston Peters, has swung to Mr Davis's defence, saying the morning mix-up was a misunderstanding over what the question was about.
It was completely across the detail, but if you're talking about the telephone book versus the Yellow Page directory, you can be talking about two different things if you were looking for the right phone number, so to speak. But is he all over it? Yes, he is all over the subject.
The Corrections Association supports efforts to boost rehabilitation and prevent reoffending. But its president, Alan Whitley, says the forecasts prove the country desperately needs more prison beds. He wants the government to closely monitor whether its proposed reform is actually working.
If the initiatives aren't working, decisions need to be made early so that we can actually have beds in the system rather than housing prisoners in areas that we shouldn't be, such as floors.
The government's planned a so-called Justice Summit for next month to consider a suite of changes, but any major overhaul won't kick in till at least next year. Atu i te whare parimata mō te hōtaka o te ahiahi, ko Craig McCulloch.